Hi everyone, and welcome back to Historic Subjects. Today we're going to be diving into the story of our next English monarch, one whose story has been most likely twisted by his enemies' propaganda to make him one of the most maligned and misunderstood kings of the time. This is the story of King Eadwig, a young teenage boy who inherited a newly unified England. A boy king who for centuries was wrongly seen as a foolish, irresponsible and wanton ruler whose reign was a total disaster. Born around the year 940, he was the eldest son of King Edward I. Following his father's death, the throne passed to his uncle, Eadred, as Eadwig and his younger brother Edgar were deemed too young to rule. Upon his uncle's death, on the 23rd of November in 955, the 15-year-old Eadwig was chosen as king. When Eadwig took the throne, the Kingdom of England was a new and fragile creation. His ancestors had spent decades fighting to bring various Anglo-Saxon and Viking-controlled territories under one crown, but this unity was only skin deep. In the 10th century, a king's power was based on military strength and crucially personal loyalty of powerful regional lords. Old loyalties, like Mercia and Northumbria in the north, were still incredibly strong, and Northumbria had only just been brought back under English control a year earlier in 954. When Eadwig received the crown, he also inherited a group of powerful, entrenched advisors who had been in charge for a decade. This group included his own grandmother, the formidable Queen Eadwig, Archbishop Odo of Canterbury, the most powerful churchman in the land, and the man who would become his nemesis, the Abbot Dunstan, brilliant and charismatic church leader who had been his uncle's closest advisor. This old guard was deeply invested in the old ways of doing things, and they had strong ties to Eadwig's younger ambitious brother, Edgar. For the new teenage king, asserting his authority meant that he would have to challenge this powerful group, so a clash was inevitable. Eadwig was officially crowned on the 26th of January in 956. This is where the so-called Coronation Scandal comes into play. According to a biography of Dunstan, who is now revered as a saint, Eadwig abandoned his own coronation feast to go to a private room with a noblewoman, Athelgafu, and her daughter, Elfgafu. The story claims that Dunstan found the king with his crown tossed on the floor, acting shamefully. The furious abbot then physically dragged the humiliated king back to the banquet. This story, however, is now thought to be political propaganda by many historians, due to it being written by a friend of Dunstan's almost 50 years after it supposedly happened. Most likely to make Eadwig look unfit to rule and justify the actions his enemies took against him. We may never know what truly happened on that day, but what we do know is that almost immediately after his coronation, King Eadwig began to purge the old guard from power. His first target was the leader of the rival faction, Dunstan. In 956, Eadwig exiled the powerful abbot to Flanders. Pro-Dunstan sources claim it was petty revenge for the coronation incident, but it could have been a cold, calculated move to remove the leader of the rival faction from the board. Next, he went after his own grandmother, Queen Eadwig, confiscating her vast lands and properties. He then reduced the power of Athelstan, half-king, who soon retired from politics. He systematically sidelined all the key players from his uncle's reign. Was this an act of an irresponsible child, or a calculated political purge? Either way, Eadwig was making it crystal clear that a new era had begun, and the old guard was gone. This then created a power vacuum. A king can't rule alone, he needed his own team, his own loyal supporters, and he had a plan for that. King Eadwig's secret weapon was to use Anglo-Saxon land charters. A charter was a legal document that gave land to the monarch. In the 10th century, land was wealth, and wealth was power. Granting land was the single most important way a king could reward his friends and build a network of loyal followers. In the year 956, right after he purged the old guard, Eadwig issued an unprecedented number of charters. Over 60 of his land grants from that single year survive today. That's about 5% of all surviving Anglo-Saxon charters from a 400-year period. His enemies claimed he was being reckless, dispersing his kingdom to his cronies. But the truth is that this was probably part of his clever plan. He used the lands he'd confiscated from Dunstan and his own grandmother to reward his own friends in order to create a new political establishment that was loyal to him, not to his uncle's memory or his ambitious younger brother. An even more crucial element to King Eadwig's master plan was who he would marry. Remember Elfgafu, the woman from the Coronation Scandal? Well, she wasn't just some commoner, she was a high-ranking noblewoman. but critically, she was also a descendant of King Ethelred I, an earlier king from a rival branch of the royal family. By marrying Elfgafu, Eadwig was merging the two most powerful bloodlines of the House of Wessex. Any son they had would have an ironclad dual claim to the throne, completely sidelining his brother Edgar's ambitions. His enemies saw the danger, and in 958 they struck back. Archbishop Oda, a key member of the Old Guard, forcibly separated the couple and annulled the marriage. The official reason was the couple were too closely related to legally marry, as they were third cousins. But the church's rules were notoriously flexible and often used for political reasons. This was almost certainly a political hit. By annulling the marriage, Oda and his allies sabotaged Eadwig's crucial alliance, and most importantly, prevented the birth of an heir who would have secured his dynasty. With his marriage destroyed and his enemies emboldened, the political crisis reached its peak in 957. The powerful nobles of Mercia and Northumbria, the entire northern half of England, renounced their allegiance to Eadwig. They declared his younger brother Edgar as their king. To avoid a civil war, a settlement was reached that literally split the kingdom in two along the River Thames. Eadwig was left as the king of the old southern heartlands of Wessex and Kent, while his 14-year-old brother Edgar ruled the entire north. This was the final move in a political chess game by Edgar's powerful supporters, and the first thing Edgar did as king of the north was to recall the exiled abbot Dunstan, proving who was really pulling the strings. The divided kingdom was an unstable and temporary solution, but the crisis ended unexpectedly on the 1st of October in 959, as King Eadwig died. He was still a teenager, no older than 19. The cause of his death is a complete mystery. The chronicles written by his enemies are completely silent. It possibly could have been a sudden illness, but some later writers hinted that he may have been murdered. We'll never know for sure, but his death was very convenient for his opponents. Eadwig's death instantly ended the political crisis. His brother Edgar peacefully took control of the whole kingdom, reuniting England. One of Edgar's first acts was to make Dunstan the Archbishop of Canterbury, cementing the total victory of the faction Eadwig had fought so hard against. So in the end, who was King Eadwig? If we look past the propaganda, the image of a young foolish boy king falls apart. Instead we see an ambitious and ruthless young king who launched a brilliant campaign to claim power for himself. His flood of charters wasn't reckless, it was a strategy to build loyalty. His controversial marriage wasn't just passion, it was a dynastic power play. He took on the establishment, but ultimately lost. In the end, history is written by the victors, and the victors were his brother Edgar and St. Dunstan. Their long and successful reign was hailed as a golden age, and to make that story work, Eadwig's reign had to be remembered as a disaster. Thank you for joining me on this dive into history. If you liked the video or found it informative, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really does help the channel grow. And if you'd like to continue learning about history with me, then hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Let me know what you think about King Eadwig's reign. Was Eadwig a misunderstood political genius, or a reckless teenager who got what was coming to him? And what do you think happened to him in the end? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if you would like to learn about any of King Eadwig's predecessors, then click one of the links at the end of this video. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.